5 days after the start of the Iran conflict. Military operations are still escalating. Airstrikes by the United States and Israel reportedly continued across several locations in Iran. According to reports, Israeli forces targeted multiple military facilities in Tehran, including sites believed to be connected to Iran's security infrastructure. Meanwhile, a separate naval incident occurred in the Indian Ocean. A vessel associated with the Iranian Navy was struck near Sri Lankan waters, and many individuals are still reported missing following the attack. Iran has also launched retaliatory strikes. Drones and missiles have reportedly been fired towards several countries in the region, including Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. Inside Iran, communication has become extremely limited. Authorities have imposed strict internet restrictions, making it difficult for information to leave the country. Reports suggest the number of civilian casualties since the beginning of the conflict has surpassed 1,000. Despite the limited communication, some residents of Tehran have shared messages describing what life has been like during the past few days. People living in Tehran say the current situation feels far more intense than previous conflicts. One resident explained that the number of explosions and the scale of destruction are unlike anything they have experienced before. He said that on the first day of the conflict he still went to work as usual. But later that evening, news broke that a major Iranian leader had been killed. According to him, something unexpected happened in the city center that night. Instead of silence, some people could be heard cheering and shouting in the streets, a reaction he had not anticipated. Since then, security across the city has become extremely strict. Residents report receiving regular text messages warning them not to leave their homes or gather in public places. Some messages reportedly warn that anyone protesting could be treated as cooperating with foreign enemies. Another resident described how daily life has become unpredictable. During the first few days, intense bombing forced him and his friends to move between different homes carrying emergency bags. One house felt safer because it had fewer windows, but it also created a sense of isolation since they couldn't see what was happening outside. Their own home had many windows, which helped them stay informed about the situation, but it also made them feel more exposed and vulnerable. The skyline of Tehran has reportedly changed as well. Residents say the city has been covered with clouds and smoke from explosions, creating a dramatic and unsettling view. Some describe the scene as strangely beautiful but deeply disturbing at the same time. When confirmation came that Iran's supreme leader had died, one resident said his emotions were complicated. Instead of feeling relief, he felt anger, believing that years of hardship and suffering had been caused by political decisions that ultimately cost thousands of lives. Iranian state media later announced that the funeral ceremony for Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei would be postponed. He was reportedly killed during one of the early attacks in the conflict. Originally, a 3-day funeral ceremony had been planned and preparations had already begun. However, officials later stated that the event would be delayed until the country's infrastructure and security situation become more stable. So far, no new date has been announced. Reports also indicate that his son, Mojtaba Khamenei, survived the attacks and could potentially become a leading figure in the country's political future. Another controversial incident during the conflict involved a strike on a school building in southern Iran. Local authorities say the building was hit during the early stages of the war, leading to the deaths of many students and civilians. Footage circulating online shows large excavation efforts in preparation for multiple burials. Iranian officials claim that more than 160 people died in the strike. Although independent verification of the exact numbers has been difficult, the building was reportedly located near a military installation connected to the Revolutionary Guard. Officials in the United States have said the incident is currently under investigation and stated that military operations are not intended to target civilian locations. In another development, the Pentagon released footage showing a torpedo strike on an Iranian naval vessel in the Indian Ocean. Officials say the warship had been operating in international waters at the time. Authorities in Sri Lanka reported that dozens of people were rescued from the sea, while many others were killed in the incident. This naval strike marks another expansion of the conflict beyond Iran's borders. Chapter 6. Drone attack near U.S. consulate in Dubai. Iran has also continued launching drone attacks across the region. Several countries including Turkey, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait have reported intercepting drones headed toward their territories. In Dubai, one drone reportedly struck close to the U.S. consulate building. Elsewhere in northeastern Syria, a missile landed in an open area within a Kurdish-controlled region. These attacks highlight how the conflict is affecting multiple countries across the Middle East. Iraq tries to avoid being pulled into the war. Iraq, which shares a long border with Iran, has been trying to remain neutral during the conflict. The Iraqi government has closed its airspace and warned all sides not to use its territory for military operations. Officials say messages have been sent to Tehran, Washington, and Israel requesting that Iraqi airspace not be used for attacks. However, some reports suggest that aircraft involved in the conflict may have already flown over Iraqi territory during operations. At the same time, several Arab countries say they were not involved in the war and had previously tried to prevent it. Through diplomatic efforts, countries like Oman, Qatar, and Egypt reportedly worked to encourage dialogue between Iran and Western governments before the conflict escalated. Diplomatic tensions spread to Europe. Political tensions related to the war are also spreading beyond the Middle East. Former U.S. President Donald Trump recently criticized several European countries over their positions regarding the conflict. Spain, in particular, was mentioned after refusing to allow U.S. forces to use its facilities for military operations. In response, Spain's prime minister said his government opposes a war and warned that past conflicts in the Middle East have often created more instability rather than solving problems. British warship preparing to deploy. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is preparing to deploy the destroyer HMS Dragon to the eastern Mediterranean. The warship is currently being loaded with weapons and supplies at Portsmouth Naval Base. Once it departs, it is expected to take around 5 days to reach the region. Officials say the deployment is intended primarily for defensive purposes, particularly to protect military bases and assist with air defense operations. HMS Dragon is considered one of the most advanced air defense destroyers in the British Navy, capable of launching multiple missiles within seconds. Military analysts say the conflict is becoming more intense and increasingly unpredictable. Fighting has already spread beyond Iran and Israel, and tensions are rising in other parts of the region. Clashes involving Iran-aligned groups in Lebanon have also increased, raising concerns that another front could open in the conflict. At the same time, many questions remain unanswered. How long will the war last? Will the Iranian government remain stable? And how far will the conflict spread? For civilians caught in the middle, these uncertainties are creating deep fear and anxiety about what the future might hold.